Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's virtual meeting of the DNC Credentials Committee. As a reminder, this is an official meeting of the committee. We are live streaming these proceedings on the DNC's YouTube channel, and the meeting will also be transcribed by our court reporter for our official record. I hereby call this meeting of the Credentials Committee to order. Thank you all for joining us today. My name is Ryan Ramirez, co-chair of the Credentials Committee, and I am joined by my co-chair, Supervisor Hilda Solis. Supervisor?
Yeah, thank you, Ryan, and hello to everybody. I want to thank you for joining today's meeting. And if you would, please join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Turn it back to you, Ryan.
The first item on the agenda is the determination of a quorum. I will ask our parliamentarian, Helen McFadden, to call the roll. When Helen calls your name, the production team will unmute your microphone and you may respond to the roll. Helen? I think we have to unmute Helen. You're still not there yet, Helen. Can we unmute? There you go.
There we go. Thank you. Mr. Aguilar.
Mr. Aguilar is not on the call.
Okay. Mr. Buckley.
Here.
Thank you. Ms. Davis.
Here.
Thank you. Mr. Degnan.
Here.
Thank you. Ms. Hernandez-Matz.
Not present.
Mr. Jacobs has given his proxy to Mr. Ramirez.
Here.
Mr. Cap. I saw him earlier. Mr.
I'm
Cap.
here. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Lee.
Present.
Thank you. Ms. Leong Hong.
Here.
Thank you. I saw her earlier. Ms. Lucas.
Here, present.
Thank you. Mr. Mallory.
Present.
Thank you. Ms. Maxwell, Ms. Fleming.
Here.
Thank you. Ms. McBride has given her proxy to Claire Lucas. Mr. Middleton.
Here.
Mr. Newman has given his proxy to Virgie Rollins. Ms. Pelosi.
Present.
Thank you. Ms. Penske.
Present.
Ms. Pringle.
Ms. Pringle is not present.
Ms. Rollins.
Here.
Thank you. Ms. Ruiz. Ruiz. Is she here?
Present.
Thank
Present.
you. Mr. Valdez.
Present.
Mr. Walters has given his proxy to Mark Mallory. Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum.
Thank you, Helen. We have a quorum per our charter and bylaws. A quorum is constituting 40% or 10 credentialed committee members present in person or by proxy. Before we get underway, I want to recognize the team who supports the committee. In addition to Helen, we are joined by the Office of the Secretary of Party Affairs and DNC Counsel, Andy Levine. Thank you, everyone, for helping to make sure our meeting runs smoothly. As we move into the business of the meeting, please keep in mind that members will be muted until they are recognized to speak, at which point they will be unmuted by the production team. If a member would like to be recognized for comments or questions, please use the raised hand function feature in the Zoom or send a chat to DNC support. When you raise your hand or send your chat to the DNC support, we will create a queue of pending speakers. When it is your turn to speak, you will be announced and unmuted. The purpose of today's meeting is to hear the challenge to the election of the Alabama's 3 DNC members and to recommend a resolution to the challenge for the full DNC consideration. But before we begin, do any members have any questions? If so, please raise your hand via Zoom now. Send a chat to the DNC support.
Okay. So,
So not
as
hearing.
Ro-
Go ahead. Sorry.
is there anyone coming in? Okay, we can move forward. Okay, as Ryan stated, the purpose of today's hearing is to consider a challenge to the seating of the Alabama's 3 elected DNC members. This challenge was first filed on September the 6th, 2024 to the mail ballot elections of Donna Foster, Joe M. Reed, and Charlie Staton as DNC members in the summer of 2024. The challengers are 2020 to 2024 DNC members, Caroline South, Josh Coleman, and they are represented by State Committee member Ralph Young. After the challengers raised concerns about the summer of the 2024 mail ballot elections, and after the state party determined that under the DNC's charter and bylaws, its DNC members' seats were vacant, as of the last day of the 2024 Democratic National Convention, the state party used a procedure in its bylaws that allows its executive committee to fill vacant DNC member seats. The executive committee then selected the challenged parties, Ms. Foster, Mr. Reed, and Mr. Staton, in October 2024, and the challengers filed an addendum to their challenge incorporating the October conduct. In January of 2025, the challengers objected to the seating of the challenge parties for the winter DNC meeting, and this committee considered the parties' filings and ultimately recommended the seatings of the challenge parties on a temporary basis for the meeting, with the understanding that the state party intended to hold an election to permanently fill the seats at a state committee meeting in April of 2025. Today, we will consider the election held on April 26, 2025 to permanently fill those 3 DNC member seats. Our committee rules of procedures set forth the process of how we consider these challenges. The committee rules of procedure were provided in the meeting materials, and now DNC counsel Andy Levin will provide an overview of the hearing process as provided in the rules. I turned it over to you, Andrea.
Thank you, Madam Co-Chair. Parties and members of the committee, the DNC's bylaws vest this committee with the authority to determine the validity of the credentials of those elected to the DNC. When deciding any challenge, the committee must provide each party a reasonable opportunity to be heard and may give an opportunity for submission of briefs and oral argument. The Credentials Committee's rules of procedure govern the conduct of committee business. The rules provide that they should be interpreted so as to promote the fair, expedient, and efficient conduct of the committee. The committee's rules provide that after consideration of a challenge by the state party and an appeal of the state party's decision, the co-chairs may schedule an open and public hearing on specific factual and legal matters in dispute. The hearing may be conducted by a hearing officer or by the Credentials Committee itself. When hearings are conducted by the committee, as will be the case today, the co-chairs and the committee assume all the authority granted to a hearing officer by the committee's rules. As such, this committee has all powers necessary to conduct the hearing in such a manner so as to secure the just, speedy, and inexpensive determination of the challenge. Additionally, the co-chairs may take such actions as may be necessary to carry out the committee's rules or to facilitate the effective operation of the committee. The committee has the authority to receive all competent evidence relevant to the specific matters at issue and to assign the appropriate weight to such evidence. As such, the co-chairs have provided the parties with the opportunity to submit written briefs and documentary evidence to this committee for its consideration. This material was distributed to each member last week. The co-chairs also informed the parties that they have been allotted 20 minutes each to present oral testimony and argument for the committee's consideration. The co-chairs have not narrowed the issues that may be raised during these presentations. However, since only members of the committee may propose motions, the committee will not grant or deny dispositive procedural requests during the parties' presentations. Rather, if either party requests committee action that could dispose of the challenge or substantively affect the results of the challenge, such action will only be debated if a motion is made by a member of the committee after both presentations have been completed. As the parties each only have 20 minutes to present, please hold all questions and comments until after both presentations. After the parties have made their presentations, the committee may engage in up to 30 minutes of discussion and debate, during which time members may address questions to either party's representatives. Following debate, the co-chairs will recognize a committee member for the purpose of offering a resolution disposing of the challenge, which may be debated for up to 20 minutes, split evenly between proponents and opponents. At the conclusion of the debate, the resolution will be put to a vote. A majority vote is required to adopt a resolution disposing of the challenge. In the event the first proposed resolution is not adopted, the co-chairs will continue to recognize committee members for the purpose of offering resolutions disposing of the challenge until the challenge is disposed of. Thank you in advance for your work today.
Thank you, Andy. The challenging parties are now recognized to present their case. You will have 20 minutes.
Okay, great. Is the presentation up? Thank you so much. My name is Josh Coleman, one of the challengers. I was elected to the DNC in 2020 and a candidate in that April 26 DNC election. Every day I serve the people of Birmingham as Mayor Woodfin's Deputy Director of Social Justice and Racial Equity. We work to bring everyone to the table and ensure they have a voice. That is quite opposite of what's happening in the Alabama Democratic Party. Under Randy Kelly's leadership, there's been no effort to bring in diverse voices willingly. We want those people who are loyal and vote their way. And I know that you all are tired of hearing about Alabama, and frankly, I'm embarrassed that we're even here again. But we can't ignore what happened on and before April the 26th. Next slide. Despite promising this very committee an open, well-noticed, and fair election, Chair Kelly delivered none of that. The electorate and the process was challenged and changed on the fly to benefit select candidates. Credential committee recommendations were ignored. The vote was rushed without even verifying razor-thin margins. Next slide. This is not just an election dispute. It's a test of whether the Democratic Party enforces its own rules when state leaders treat them as optional. Kelly record shows that pattern. Credentials stripped in 2019 for non-compliance, eliminating the caucuses that this very committee mandated, youth, LGBTQ, disability, AAPI, and Hispanic caucuses in 2022. An attempt to see alternate delegates in 2024. In 2019, this very committee invalidated a similar election and ordered new bylaws creating those caucuses. I proudly joined the Youth Caucus and the LGBTQ Caucus until they were refused to be seated and eliminated once again. This committee reversed that decision and enforced those caucuses to be added without the Disability Caucus. Last summer, he and Dr. Reed tried to bring a separate set of delegates, even after the Biden-Harris campaign denied that. Both skipping voting for Vice President Harris. Alabama had 58 delegates, but we only cast 56 votes. I've tried to work with Kelly over the years, and what he doesn't know is I'm the one who worked with the Biden campaign to secure Joe Reed and his other folks' seats as delegates. But Chair Kelly's action keeps undermining the party. Did your states need Capitol Police at breakfast because threats of alternate delegations? We did. Quite frankly, it's embarrassing. When is enough enough? I urge you to act today. I now hand this off to Josh Raby. And next slide, please.
Good evening. My name is Joshua Raby. I was one of the candidates that was running for the DNC seating. I am also one of the main advocates for the Disability Caucus for the Alabama Democratic Party. Since 2022, even before then, I have been fighting to allow this party to grow by getting a Disability Caucus. We have continuously to be denied, silenced, quiet, and told not to do anything. We have had our caucus hanged over our heads, asked if we would support a particular election or vote, and that the Disability Caucus would be added. Of course, we did not bow down to the actions or questions that were given to us because we think that we know fairly that the Disability Caucus is needed, and we are poorly represented in Alabama and in the Democratic Party here in Alabama. For so long, we've been told no and that we don't have a place, but we've had to fight to get interpreters. We've had to fight to have the means to accommodate those with disability. During the recent election for the DNC seats, they were asked to have a standing vote, which is hard for several of the Disability Caucus former members because some could not stand and others were unfairly overlooked. I'm pretty much asking for this credentials committee to please stand with us, stand with the Disability Caucus, stand with those of us that want a working, functioning party that needs leadership that will listen and that will follow along. I ask and I urge you, please, to do something. Stand up for those of us that don't have a voice, that needs a voice. I now turn this over to Caroline Self.
Hello, this is Ralph Young.
Sorry,
I'm an Obama delegate. I'm a Biden elector and former executive director of the Alabama Democratic Party. Let's start at the beginning because this didn't just happen overnight. This challenge began last summer, and not one, not two, 3 failed attempts by Chair Kelly to hold DNC elections. Kelly called a June 2024 meeting. No qualifying process, no candidate form, no published rules. The election was announced only days before the meeting, which didn't even meet quorum. In July 2024, Kelly mailed ballots for our bylaws, which were prohibited. This isn't an oversight. This ban is printed plainly language in our officer elections. Kelly went ahead and later admitted to this error. Kelly then called an October 2024 election. Again, no quorum. Instead of adjourning, Kelly called an impromptu executive board meeting. Dr. Joe Reed nominated Morgan Reed, Donna Foster, and Charlie Stanton. Nominations from the floor, none. No vote totals recorded, no meeting minutes exist. Then this January, the Credentials Committee stepped in. They seated Reed, Foster, and Stanton temporarily and gave Kelly a checklist of specific steps for a fair April election. Steps like publishing rules, credentialing voters in advance, and ensuring transparency. Some steps got lip service, others were ignored. The question before you today is simple. Did Kelly meet the standard you set? We contend he did not. The standard is this: fair, timely, and equal opportunity to participate. Keep that in mind as we walk through April 26th. Started with the 2-page letter the ADP called rules. Missing recount procedures, challenge processes, credential standard, voter access rules, membership roster. The only stated rule in the letter is the majority rules. Voting members knew even less. They never got the so-called rules. Nothing was read into the record. The process was just left wide open to ad hoc discussions in the moment and justifications after the fact. When candidates asked for the membership roster, they were silent. Without it, we didn't know who could vote. Voters had no idea what process they were in or their own eligibility was being challenged. The notice never even mentioned an election judge. Next slide. Now let's talk about the notice. The DNC charter and bylaws require public notice, a rule that goes back to the McGovern-Fraser Commission and the 6 basic elements of an open party. This requirement exists so that no one can be manipulated turnout by keeping meeting details out of the public view. ADP points to Exhibit 4, but where does it say April 26th? Where does it say Montgomery, Alabama, the Renaissance Hotel? Without a date, time, or location, it's not a meeting notice. It does not meet the DNC's open meeting requirements. Next slide. And then the electorate. As I said, the roster requirements were denied. Even members trying to fill vacancies couldn't get in. The roster would have shown that there was eligible to vote, whether they were properly credentialed, and whether quorum existed in the first place. We have only learned now, August 1st, just 2 weeks ago, that 140 members were present, 140 credentials in circulation. That's your universe of voters. Write 140 down, because now I'm tossing it to Caroline.
I'm Caroline Self. I was elected to the DNC in 2020, and I'm a challenger. I was a candidate on 426. I'm going to walk you through what happened that day. If I could go down 2 slides, please. The next one. In your recommendations, you asked that Chair Kelly ensure that only current SDEC members are able to vote in the election through an organized and transparent credentialing process. Respondents have said, and no doubt will say today, that staff was checking IDs, and they were. That's not enough. Next slide. For credentialing of members to be organized and transparent, the process by which new members are elected should have also been organized and transparent. It was not. Before the election, several of us asked Chair Kelly to make the list of vacancies public. That did not happen. On 426, Sue Thompson said, quote, "That is not the Democratic way." She was right. Next slide. Some people filled seats of members who were on the 421 roster, but Chair Kelly argues that they automatically forfeited their positions because of absences. Our bylaws do say that, but many more members had as many or more absences as those who were replaced, as you can see from this slide. They weren't replaced. Several who should have been removed for absences were present on 426. Next slide. In our appeal, we provided voter file information from the Secretary of State that showed that 4 people who filled vacancies were not registered to vote in the correct district. Respondents admit they cannot confirm that 3 of them live in their district. These 3 voters were not eligible. Before we get into a tick-tock of the committeewoman election, let's talk about standing votes in the SDEC. They're not auditable. They're difficult or impossible for people with disabilities. There's no real process. Counters count different sections. Next slide. Back to how this went down. While new members were being credentialed, candidates were told to come to the front. Committeewoman candidates spoke. Immediately after my speech, Chair Kelly said, "Judge Angela Starr is here to preside." The first thing Judge Starr said was, "Good afternoon, all those in favor of Kamisha." Next slide. In the credentials recommendations, Chair Kelly was asked to, quote, "appoint an election judge at the time the meeting is noticed to administer an impartial election." Next slide. The election judge was not appointed when the meeting was called in March. The first time members and candidates heard there was a judge was after I spoke. Next slide. Judge Starr did not explain the process. All we knew was that she was a Democrat, a member of the ADC, and she was a judge for the city of Montgomery. Next slide. It is not surprising that the transcript shows confusion during the vote. 117, Judge Starr, the number recorded for Caroline Self is 64. It goes on, there's some confusion, and then there's allegations that some people voted twice that are in the transcript. For 2 different females, that's correct. There's such a huge disparity when you do your runoff, you'll take care of it, is heard in the transcript. Okay, let's stop there. I had 49.23% of the vote with what sounds like multiple counters being confused and allegations of people voting twice, and the decision is to go to a runoff. At 117, the vote count was announced. 64 votes for me, 59 for Foster. Other candidates had 7. The runoff began at 120. Foster's votes were counted once, mine were counted twice. At 126, Judge Starr announced Foster received 73 votes. I turned to Judge Starr and asked if Foster's votes could be counted again, like mine were. Ralph Young made a motion for a roll call as allowed in our bylaws. Next slide. Chair Kelly said Young's motion didn't get a second. The second is in the transcript. At 140, Judge Starr announced the vote count was Self 71 and Foster 73 and moved on. There were 3 minutes between votes, and there were 14 more votes cast than there were in the first election. Did 14 people enter the voting area in 3 minutes? Did people vote twice? Was there a mistake or was the count correct? We'll never know because this vote was not auditable and the body was not allowed to vote on a motion for a roll call. From what you've heard, was this election small d Democratic? No, it was not. The margin was razor thin, but this election illustrates flaws that existed in every DNC election on April 26th. I urge you to invalidate all three. I'll now hand off to SDEC member Sue Thompson.
My name is Sue Thompson. I've been a member of the State Democratic Executive Committee since 2014. I was recruited by Dr. Joe Reed, chair of the Minority Caucus, and elected as a member at large to fill the unexpired term of a member from Tuscaloosa County. I ran for and was elected to represent Alabama House District 61 in 2018 and in 2022. I have been a licensed attorney in Alabama for more than 50 years. For about 16 years of my career, I worked in a legal services program representing the interest of marginalized people. A great deal of my practice before retiring was focused on the needs of people of color, poor people, and other disenfranchised groups. I thought my service on the State Democratic Party Executive Committee would give me an opportunity to use the political arena to usher in changes that would help marginalized people.
Excuse me, Ms. Thomas, I just wanted to note for you guys that you had requested to reserve 5 minutes for rebuttal, and you're at that point to where you've been talking, you guys have been presenting for 15 minutes. So if anything that you're looking to reserve for rebuttal, you're going to start to eat into, just as a heads up, but it's up to you guys and how you want to handle that.
Well, is this counting against my time with my asking a question?
We have paused the time.
We pause the time. Go ahead and
Okay.
answer your question. Yes, ma'am.
So if we only have 2 minutes for rebuttal, will that be okay?
No, it's up to you. Yeah. No, we'll continue to count the time. I just wanted, and you guys didn't note it on the front end, but you had sent an email requesting 5 minutes for rebuttal. So I just wanted to, in the abundance of clarity, let you know that anything from this point forward is going to eat into that time.
So at this point, we have 5 minutes?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I'm gonna try to do this in 2, so we can have 3 minutes at least for rebuttal.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Around 2018, I realized that Alabama's Democratic Party did not always work in the interest of its constituency. I began to notice actions that were aimed at gaining power for the sake of power and not focused on using that power in a way that was consistent with Democratic Party principles. You've heard the testimony from previous witnesses. So maybe there's really something in Alabama's water supply that makes us think that we don't have to comply with outside authority. You saw that our legislature's congressional map totally ignored the U.S. Supreme Court's ruling in Milligan versus Merrill. And for some reason, the Alabama Democratic Party's leadership follows the examples laid before it by its Republican state leaders. If you don't know the race of the party's leadership and could review only their recent actions, you would think that Republicans were running the Democratic Party. There has been a steady pattern of exclusion of non-Black groups and schemes to deny voting power to non-Black members. What I think is perhaps the most egregious display of disregard for principles of democracy occurred at the April 26th meeting, when the body was to elect the representatives to serve on the DNC. The leadership had previously presented its slate of candidates to fill vacancies on the committee without informing all members of the SDEC which positions it could consider vacant. It was clearly leadership's attempt to choose the voters who would support its candidates. Prior to the meeting, I had requested that all vacancies be made known to all SDEC members, but this request was ignored. The result was that the leadership put in place members who would vote for their preferred candidates. This action was not unlike what the Republican Texas legislature is attempting to do to shape the next Congress. I believe that this committee has within its power the ability to put an end to the shenanigans of the Alabama Alabama's leadership. The Democratic Party brand in Alabama is dependent on what this committee does. In my opinion, an appropriate remedy would be to invalidate the April 26th election, which deprived Alabama Democrats of the opportunity to elect the DNC representatives of their choice. Under the oversight of the Rules and Bylaws Committee, I would suggest that that Alabama Democratic Party be required to establish procedures that will ensure a fair, open, and transparent election for and removal of SDEC members and representatives to the DNC. I would also suggest that we restore and protect all diversity caucuses that were established in the bylaws that were approved by SDEC and the DNC in 2019, and that the DNC require pre-clearance for all proposed changes to the bylaws, to Alabama's bylaws. I think my time is up.
Yes.
I would like to just confirm for you, how much time do we have available, Aaron? Left for rebuttal?
1 minute and 41 seconds for rebuttal.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that. That concludes the presentation by the challengers. Hilda?
Yes. Am I on? Okay, very good. We have again here, the challenge party will be recognized for 20 minutes. And if you do want to reserve the 5 minutes or less, please let us know. So why don't you go ahead and begin, challenge party members.
Yes, I'm sorry, I had a little trouble with the unmute there. My name is Ben Harris. I am the Vice Chair for County Affairs for the Alabama Democratic Party, and I'm representing the respondents here today. And thank you very much first for your time and your attention and for your work with our party. And yes, we would, to the extent that we have time remaining at the end of the presentation, we'd like to reserve whatever time we have remaining for rebuttal. Let me begin at the outset by saying we worked very hard, and I can personally vouch for this because I was involved in our work to organize this election with our outstanding staff. Our outgoing Executive Director, Tom Myro, is here. He and his staff, including our Communications Director, Sheena Gamble, did great work in getting the meeting set up and organized. We, as you all may be familiar, we have had our issues in the past. We have made great strides. We have resolved through very hard work issues that have been raised here that occurred in the past related to bylaws and other things, but we have resolved those. And we believe that we had a fair, well-noticed, open meeting. I can personally vouch, as I say, to the work that was done there. And we have set forth in our response the Credentials Committee recommendations and the manner in which we complied with them. We have provided you also with a transcript of the hearing. And I want to take a couple of points that I think were mentioned and hit those at the outset, and then come back and walk through the recommendations and the way in which we followed them. And I'll preface this by saying everyone on this call who is from the Alabama Democratic Party, I consider to be a friend and a colleague. I think I wish only that we had 5 spots because I think the elected representatives and the challengers clearly were the top 5 preferences of our party. And unfortunately, we only had 3 spots, and we did our best to have a fair election to get those filled. As it relates to the filling of the vacancies, first, we are commanded by our bylaws, Article 5, Section 3, page 21 of our bylaws, to fill vacancies at each meeting before we can vote. We have to fill them at the meeting. We placed in the hands of our very capable staff a very rigorous credentialing process. And we noted in our response that one of our best known members, one of the best known attorneys and Democrats in Alabama, Fred Gray, who is our chair in Macon County, appeared, but unfortunately had left his ID in his car and was not allowed to enter the meeting until his ID was retrieved. The staff very carefully credentialed each member who came in. We roped off the voting area so that only credentialed members could vote. As it related to the filling of the vacancies, we filled those in the manner in which we have always filled them. No, we did not, and we never have, and our bylaws do not require, published our members' contact information for folks to talk to prior to the meeting. Our staff held the list of vacancies. The list of vacancies was not shared with anyone, not the supporters of the elected parties, not the supporters of the challengers, no one. It was not shared with me. It was not shared with Dr. Reed. It was not shared with anyone. We fill vacancies based on our respective members' knowledge of the party and who is attending meetings. We obviously verify that with our staff, which does keep the list. And that was the process that was followed here. And we very carefully set out in our response the vacancies that were filled. And as you will see, about 16 of the vacancies were filled by people who supported the challengers. And I mean, in fact, precisely 16 were filled by people who supported the challengers. 16 were filled by, or nominated by folks who supported the elected parties. It came out just about even. The vast majority, and you'll see this around page 60 of the transcript, which is our Exhibit 1, the vast majority of these were unopposed and were elected by a unanimous vote by acclamation. And it's fine, staff. I appreciate you trying to get to the exact spot, but we have supplied that in the transcript. And so I stress that we followed our same vote all of the way. As Ms. Self acknowledged, there is in our bylaws a provision, it's on page 10 of our bylaws, that if someone has missed more than 3 consecutive meetings, their spot may be filled at the next meeting if they do not appear. And some of those spots were filled, approximately 5. I want to address also, although I didn't hear it in the challengers presentation, I saw it in some of their materials, the election judge. The election judge is a person of, as far as I know, impeccable integrity. There was some reference to she's a member of the Alabama Democratic Conference. That's, I don't think, a fair reason to impugn anyone's integrity. That's a remarkable organization. She was, with great respect to the judge, she was not the first judge we contacted. We set out from the beginning through our staff to contact judges who were available. And we contacted to see if they were available. We contacted Judge Brooke Reed in Montgomery, who is a good Democrat, not a member of the Alabama Democratic Conference. Her schedule did not permit her to appear. We contacted Judge James Anderson, also a good Democrat, not a member of the Alabama Democratic Conference. His schedule did not permit him to appear. The delay in appointing the judge was in finding a judge who was willing and able to appear on a Saturday. As it relates to following the Credentials Committee's recommendations, and in a moment I'll let our Executive Director, Tom Myrow, speak to that. We compiled a list within the time of our members. Within the time, our staff kept that list of our members within the time specified by the committee. That's our Exhibit 2. We then gave the direct notice to our members. That's in Exhibits 3 and 4 of the meeting, and we published notice. And I want to pause here. We vetted the public notice that we published for the meeting with not only our staff prepared it, but with DNC staff to ensure that it was sufficient and compliant. And I will ask when I get to the end of my presentation, Mr. Morrow, to speak to that point. Our website notice of the election provided the instructions for how to qualify and a link to the qualifying form. We had 20 folks qualify for 3 elected spots. We have gone through, I think, each of the, we have an amendment that was previously passed. That was one of the other recommendations that specifies the elections to be in the appropriate year. We attempted to have another one at that meeting passed, but we believe the one that we have, which was passed by mail by an overwhelming vote, would be compliant there. And of course, we appointed Judge Starr. In addition to appointing Judge Starr, we appointed a parliamentarian, not a member of our party, a parliamentarian who's an assistant professor at Alabama State University, Ms. Emma Fall, who is an officer, a second vice president, I believe, at the Alabama Association of Registered Parliamentarians. So, and she ruled on a number of the issues, and we followed her rulings in each instance. And we did our very, very best. As it relates to opportunity to campaign, again, we did not to any candidate, and we've got our 3 elected candidates here who can attest to this. We did not supply a list of members to any of our candidates so that they could contact them. Everyone had the same opportunity based on personal relationships and other means of knowing who our members were to run their campaigns, and they did. And Mr. Young, among others, contacted and emailed all SDC members. Ms. Self did that as well. So we followed again that procedure as clearly and as well as we could. As it relates to the challenges they've raised, one, I just noticed they put up the name of Frederick Scott. That is not the Frederick Scott who was elected to the seat. We do have to run down, obviously, where that person lives. But as it relates to the folks in the wrong seats, it is at most a handful. And in fact, we don't know at this point how those folks voted, who they supported. But there are hardly enough of those to have affected the outcome of at least the first 2 elections. And I want to underscore this. We had one election that was decided by 56 votes. That was Mr. Statton's election. He won by 56 votes, 97 to 41. Then we had a second election decided by 25 votes. That's Mr. Reed's election against Mr. Coleman. There are simply not enough issues here to have affected the outcome of any of those elections. Ms. Self and Ms. Foster had a very, very close election. We worked hard to run a rigorous and fair process, and were that issue to be brought to our executive board and to our party, I'm sure we would examine it very thoroughly. It is a 2-vote election. So we endeavored, and we will continue to endeavor, to be fair. We are working very hard to unite our party. We deal with difficult issues in Alabama that run right along the fault lines of race and status. And those issues sometimes lead to disputes that make it up to this body. We do our best. We continue to do our best. And we worked hard to be fair. We're making great progress. We're moving our party forward to a more united vision. We will endeavor to continue to be fair and run very fair processes. And with that, I am going to yield, and I would ask Mr. Myro to discuss both the credentialing process and the notice that was published.
Can you guys hear me? Sorry, I'm in the middle of a parking lot trying my best to dive in. Yeah. Listen, we knew that this was going to be a very important election on the staff side. And we wanted to make sure that we were doing everything in our power to stay in compliance with the direction that the Credentials Committee gave us in National Harbor. As far as like notice, we were really excited to be able to get our public notice out, and we did it on a number of platforms. We wanted to make sure that we were giving everybody as many opportunities as possible to engage with the DNC member election. And we got that out 6 weeks ahead of the election, something we were really happy with. It was definitely better than the notice that we'd given in the past, and that was something that we were really proud of. And it was a conscious effort on the staff side to make sure that we were able to do that. As far as like the maintenance of the membership list, very luckily, this is like something that falls into day-to-day operations over at the state party staff side office. Is we're compiling and always creating that the most up-to-date list that we can have of members, knowing that sometimes we'll have folks that'll move out of state and they won't let us know until all of a sudden somebody from their county comes in and says, oh, they don't live there anymore. But we
just
work
want to, can I interrupt?
on that kind of data hygiene.
Can I just give you a warning? We got 5 minutes left. So, 5 minutes. Thank you.
Oh, so yeah. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Yeah. So we're always working constantly on that data hygiene piece to make sure that we have the most up-to-date file that we have. I know that other folks do have their own idea of what the list is, but we were working with the best information that we had, and it was important that we continued to do that. As far as going back to the notice, if I can, like, we knew that we wanted to get this right, and so I was talking constantly to staff side folks from Party Affairs to make sure that we were doing the best that we could to get an early and accurate notice out there, and even spoke to Ralph Young about like making sure that like our notice was getting out as soon as we could, and that was the vetting process for making sure that the notice was out as much as possible. So yeah, I think those are the two main things that you wanted me to address, Ben.
Yes, and if we can briefly, I would like for each of our elected parties, starting with Staton, briefly to affirm that he was not provided any inside information about members, and add anything else he would like to read in Ms. Foster.
Well, let me say good evening. If you can hear me, can you hear me?
Yes. Yes, we can hear you.
Let me say good evening. The chairman is exactly right. We were not provided any particular information or some suggested list, period. And one other thing that I'd like to add is that I've been a part of this distinguished body for over 8 years now, and I've been more than twice a temporary member. I've watched this body operate, and I know for certain that we've operated fairly. I would not serve knowing that we've cheated anybody out of anything. Matter of fact, when the two challengers came on board, I welcomed them and I introduced them around the party. And I would do the same thing for any and courtesy extended to me. Thank you.
She's not unmuted. Donna Foster, we can't hear you.
Yeah. Ms. Foster, you are unmuted, but we cannot hear. No, I don't believe your microphone is working.
Mm-hmm. Okay. How much time is remaining? Yeah.
2 minutes and 40 seconds.
2 minutes and 40 seconds.
Okay. Would you like?
Can we pause the time?
The time has been paused.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Hear you.
If we may, while Ms. Foster is getting hers, maybe we could go to Mr. Reed, Mr. Joe M. Reed.
Sure, go ahead.
Good evening. Can everyone hear me?
Go ahead,
Hello?
Joe. Go ahead. We can hear you.
Hello? Okay. Well, good evening to everyone. I'm trying to get my camera to activate, but apparently I guess it is not. But in any event, I agree with Mr. Staton. This was a fair and open election. From what I understood, the DNC asking the state party did announce the meeting in advance. They gave everyone clear instructions. They did everything the DNC asked Alabama to do. That was ensured. The other part is that the party followed its own bylaws. I wasn't provided any kind of list from anybody, and to my knowledge, no one ever has been provided any kind of list. And because other people who wanted a list didn't get one from the party, does not mean an election was not fair. If everyone is playing on the same playing field, then it is fair. Now, what's being disagreed with here is who won. And what I take certainly exception to, as I've heard some of the comments by some of the challengers, who were simply upset because they lost. And it is no more complicated than that. The fact of the matter is that with any group, much like the DNC as a whole, and every group, there are factions. People have supporters. Some people have more than others. And in this election, the two challengers, when they ran when I say party-wide, they didn't get a whole lot of votes party-wide. They got more votes on the statewide, but they still lost those. But the party cannot be, every time people lose an election, they can't come to the national party to try to sort that out and get relief where the democratic process didn't go in their favor. And that's all we had here. To say something could be done differently does not mean it's not fair. To say there could have been an announcement on CNN run 24/7, that's possible. But did that mean that the elections weren't properly noticed the way it was done? Of course it doesn't mean that. And so this is a list of anything that the challengers can throw their hat on. They're looking for any kind of issue to try to hang their hat on in order to cause another election, which in all likelihood they probably will not win. And not because anyone is stacking a deck, it's about the democratic process. Some people just prefer other people.
Thank you, Mr. Reed. I have to interrupt you now. The time is up. So members, this concludes the presentation by the challenged parties. We appreciate that. And I'll turn it back over to Ryan.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We still have, I believe, 1 minute and 40 seconds for the rebuttal.
I think there was a rebuttal.
There was, they reserved.
Staff?
They reserved 1 minute and 40 seconds.
Minute? Okay.
Ralph, you have,
You have 1 minute, 40 seconds.
I believe we were asked.
challenge party, would you like to use your 1 minute and 41 seconds of rebuttal time?
We were asked.
I would make one statement.
Oh, no.
I'm gonna take that as that they're not gonna exercise it. I think we gave them a good opportunity to respond.
Right. Okay.
Thank you to both parties for joining us today and for the time and effort you have expended to make your case. The committee now has 30 minutes for debate. During the debate, members may address questions to each party's counsel or representative. Individuals who are not members of the committee may only speak when recognized by the co-chairs and will be unmuted by staff when requested to do so by the committee. Members, if you have any comments or questions, please raise your hand via Zoom or send your questions via chat to DNC support. We will do our best to call everyone in the order they seek recognition. I'm going to pause for a little time to give folks to queue up.
Chair, I see Ms. Pelosi with her hand raised.
Yes, Ms. Pelosi.
Thank you. Thank you to all the parties, and thank you to the ASL interpreters who are here, making sure that we are fully communicative. As a co-founder of the Disability Caucus, I have a question for both sides, and that is, I have two questions. One, on the disability front, when you talk about a standing vote, obviously a lot of our language is ableist, but be that as it may, was the command that somebody actually stand up who could not stand up? And if that's the case, how many people might have been in wheelchairs, walkers, or otherwise unable to stand? That's my first question. And my second question is, because this relates to a lot of what we're doing right now in our other elections vis-a-vis a voter file that everybody can have access to. I've been around a long time, since I was a little kid, so I know a lot of people, right? They see me coming, they know, right? So it wouldn't be hard for me to let loose in a room full of people without a roster and go out and campaign. But for someone who's newer to the party, for someone who's newer to the process, for someone who might want to have advocates campaign on their behalf, doesn't it behoove the Democratic Party and the DNC to set a standard that you should have a roster, and that roster should be available to everyone? Because the lack of a roster would actually benefit someone like me, who's been around a while and knows the people, over someone who is newer. So first question, what about that standing ballot? How many people did that affect? And second of all, what precedent are we being asked to set vis-a-vis the absence of a roster available to all? Thank you all so much.
And if I may, Ben Harris on behalf of the challenge parties. As far as I'm aware, and I was sitting on the podium so that I had a view, and I want to emphasize these issues as it relates to, I know we've had an issue about whether we would have a formal disability caucus, but in terms of the accommodations, I want to take a moment and commend our staff. We worked very hard. We have an interpreter who is there. No one raised, as far as I know, and I did not observe any issues with respect to anyone being unable to stand. Today was the first that I've heard of that. We would have, I will say this, because we have a deep commitment, and I want to underscore that, a deep commitment to getting those issues right. We did, our parliamentarian, with great respect to her, does suffer from some mobility issues, and we took care to accommodate her being where she could be and issue rulings. And had there been an issue brought to our attention, I am absolutely certain we would have accommodated. As it relates to the member, and I'm happy to address anything else that came up, but that touches me deeply, and I want to make sure that we're clear about that. Any issue that has been raised with us, we have tried to address. As it relates to the membership roster, in terms of what might be done going forward, I certainly, might be an advocate of something like that. But as it relates to this particular election, and I want to underscore this, you heard, I think, about previous meetings where we didn't reach quorum. You heard one side of that. The other side of that is that there was an active effort by folks who support these challengers to boycott those meetings. And there was a deep concern on our side that there would be another attempt to do that. So that was one reason. Two, we have not traditionally, and I serve additionally as our vice chair for county affairs, and which means I work with our county parties. And we have had issues in the past with making individuals who are volunteers, making their contact information public, which is what we would have had to do here. And we actually did that. Ms. Gamble, who's our communications director, can attest to this. We attempted to do that with our county chairs, and we got a very upset response to that from at least one of them. And so we've been very cautious about that. having said that, and so as it goes into this election, I don't think it would be with great respect, I don't think it would be fair to hold us to that standard, which may be somewhat aspirational. It has not been done in the past, and it was not done here in an effort to be unfair to anyone. Everyone was treated the same way. And yes, perhaps folks like both the challengers and the ones who won the election who have deep connections in the party, long work with the party helps you win elections. That's just a fact. And that may have helped here. But I will note that the two communications I got, actually three. I got three. I got one from Mr. Reed. I'm sorry, from Mr. Young. I got one from multiple from Mr. Young. I got one from Ms. Self. And I believe I got one from Joe Emery. I did not get one from Ms. Staten. I did not get one from Ms. Foster. So I think it balanced out just about equally. And again, we did our best.
Thank you.
May I respond?
Oh, yes, sir. Please do.
Yes. So as far as the commitment of the party to the disability, this committee credentials required us in 2023 to add any number of caucuses, including a disability caucus, and those were removed in 2022, 24. And except for the disability caucus, which has never been returned. So there is an absence, there is no forum for what people can speak toward disability. Also, we have a geriatric problem in our party. There are many members that have served for a very long time, and not all disabilities are apparent. As far as other items about the roster, it is not clear that the party itself was maintaining an accurate roster, because there were members who were supposedly removed due to their lack of participation, and yet they showed active on the roster just 5 days prior. So I do not understand that argument.
If I may, on that point, and I don't mean to keep batting back and forth, but the way our bylaws read is that if you have missed more than 3, you may be removed unless you present a valid excuse, for example, medical reasons or others. And if you do not appear at the next meeting and you have not presented an excuse, you can be replaced. And so the reason for that, as it relates to the roster, is to allow someone to appear and present an excuse and be credentialed. And that is why we do that. We give them as much opportunity as we can, and some of them just don't come. And so that's what happened. And as it relates to not all of those spots being filled, we don't always have replacements. We wish we did, but we don't always do that. So that is why.
Mr. Young, you want to respond to that, and then we need to move on to other questions from.
Yeah, absolutely. The short answer is that's why we need to publish the roster publicly. By my count, there should have been over 100 members removed because of lack of participation. And yet that hasn't been published. Without that, the members of the committee can't go out and recruit people in their own communities and backyards to participate, and that's just wrong.
All right, well, thank you very much to both of you, and I'm going to move on to the next question. So thank you, Ms. Pelosi. I know Michael had his up first. I don't know whether we want to go with Ray or Mike. We can go with Michael. Yeah, Michael was up first, so I'll go with Michael. Mr. Cap.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. My first question is for Mr. Miro.
Mr. Cap, Mr. Miro is not currently on the call. I know he was driving, so that might be the reason.
Is there another representative from the state party? Is Chair Kelly here?
I believe Chair Kelly is here, and obviously I'm.
Yes, I'm here.
Sir, thank you. First question is quick. Chair Martin and President Tleb came together and forged a historic agreement for the state party partnership, providing, as you know, over $21,000 a month to red state parties to build the infrastructure that we need for Democratic candidates to be competitive up and down the ballot. Tell me today if you've utilized any of those funds to prepare your response for today's challenge, and if so, how much?
We hadn't used any funds, but these challenges, in fact, most of these challenges here is just disgruntled people who lost the election. And some of this stuff you're talking about has nothing to do with the challenges. Even we're for disabled people, we for any marginalized people and what have you. We for racial diversity. We have more white employees than we do have Black employees, and that's intentional. So a lot of this is just from disgruntled people who legitimately lost the election. We followed all of the mandates of the DNC. And you couldn't have had an election that was more transparent and fair than the election was. And some of those margins were so large, if the election was ran again, they would still lose.
You, Mr. Chair, my question was on the state party partnership funds.
And you have, no, we didn't spend any. As far as I know, my executive director could tell you that we didn't spend any. But even with Young, if you check the records of who is behind most of the challenges is Young. Now, Young is a disgruntled employee that used to work for the party. And as long as you listen to him crying like a baby, we're going to always be at this juncture in meetings like this. And what he has said and what most of the petitioners have said has been rebutted.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Next, if staff please pull up the state party's response, Exhibit D, specifically page 184 of the PDF. Thank you so much. So this is a press release sent by the state party after this credentials committee voted back on January 31 to temporarily seat all 3 Alabama DNC members and ordered new elections. I'd like to highlight 2 sentences from this press release for my colleagues here today. First, the first line of this release says, quote, "Today the DNC's Credentials Committee agreed with the Alabama State Democratic Executive Committee's position with respect to the DNC's credential challenge from Alabama." Then a line in the final paragraph. "We are grateful that the Credentials Committee conceded the validity of our election." I think that this clearly crystallizes the problem that this committee has had with the Alabama Democratic Party for at least the last 8+ years that I've been on this committee. Mr. Chair, I don't think that there's a single person on this committee who will say that back in January, we agreed with the state party's position. We did not concede the validity of your election. That's literally why we ordered new elections and only temporarily seated your members instead of permanently seating your members. This statement either shows willful intent, which I don't believe you have, to subvert the direction of the DNC and this committee, or we have simply not done a good enough job of explaining the consequences of the ADP's persistent inability to hold open and fair elections. I'm also worried that if we do move today to temporarily seat 1 or more of the 3 members, and similar messaging to this comes out of the ADP, that could unduly influence the upcoming elections. So, sir, please let me ask you, now that you're sitting here, do you understand that we in the Credentials Committee never conceded the validity of your elections back in our January meeting? And in fact, we found them invalid?
Well, whether you have or not, that does not negate the fact that we had a free and fair election. Yeah, this is a free and fair election, and you hadn't came up with anything that we did wrong in the election.
Mr. Cap, if I
They
may,
share pictures on what has been shared.
if I may, Mr. Cap, I think there may be a little bit of misunderstanding in terms of what the action was by the state party with respect to the temporary representatives. There was not a position by the state party at the hearing in January that we had in any way permanently elected anyone. We knew we had vacancies, and the executive board does under, and I believe that was part of the preamble, does under our bylaws have the authority and the mandate to appoint temporary replacements until permanent elections can be held. And while I was not involved in drafting this particular press release, I note that last sentence talks about the election to seat our temporary representatives, and that is certainly what we thought we had been doing. And I don't think anyone was taking the position that there had been some validation of some sort of permanent election. We knew we had not had one. And so I don't want there to be a misunderstanding on that point. And in terms of compliance with what this committee has asked us to do, we worked very, very hard to do that as well as we could. We are a large body. We have a number of members. We have passionate disagreements. But we are working very, very hard, and we have made great strides towards unifying our party. And I think the message that I would like for this committee to hear is that we endeavored to do that here in this election. We worked as hard as we have ever worked to make it as fair as we possibly could. Could it have been more perfect? Could it have been better in some respects? Absolutely. But that was not from any effort not to comply. It was not from any ignoring or disregarding or giving lip service. I personally worked very hard with our staff on the organization. We vetted credentials as well as we could, and I do not think there's a serious argument that anyone who was not credentialed voted. We heard this committee loud and clear in terms of the recommendations that were in the January resolution, and we went down line by line and did our very, very best to comply as fully as we could. We have not in the past, and I don't think we're the only body that falls in this category. We have not made public our list of members. Might that be something in the future that would be a good suggestion? It may well be. There are issues both ways, but we have not previously done that. We conducted the votes just as we've always conducted them. Standing votes. I know some folks have said, well, there's issues with standing votes, but that's how I was elected to my position. That was how our previous chair, after the 2018-2019 battle that we had, our previous chair, Chris England, was elected. That is how Dr. Kelly was elected. All of our elections are done that way. They do have the advantage of each candidate, including Ms. Self, who did appoint a counter, and I want to underscore that. She had a close election. She had a person appointed that she appointed to count the votes. Her votes were counted twice. We were trying, and I want this committee to hear this. I think you're hearing in both presentations some of the passions that our party deals with. And they go back a long way, and they touch very deep issues that we are working to bridge every day. And I think it is very important for this committee, please, to allow us to continue to do that. We are working as hard as we possibly can to do it. And we're not always perfect, but we do our best.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. I think everyone here wants to make sure that the Alabama Democratic Party succeeds. But my question was on the framing, or actually misframing, of this committee's actions back in January. So I don't know if the challengers want to respond to anything that you just brought up.
Do we have somebody from the challenger side who would like to respond? Yeah, that looks like, I mean, we also okay. If you guys could.
In the interest of time.
I think I might be unmuted now. I would like to, since Vice Chair Harris spoke about me and having the ability to appoint a counter, I did, and I'm very grateful for that. As you heard in my presentation, there was significant confusion that's in the record and in the transcript, and the decision was made from the dais to move on. So it also should be noted, I know those of you who have not been in the Alabama Democratic Party meeting, you think that each counter gets to count the entire room. That's not how it works. There's nothing organized about it. Everybody sits up, stands, it's crazy. I was a counter once back when Nancy Hurley was chair. She appointed me as a counter. It was so fast. I can say right now, I have no idea if I got the numbers right. I'm not at all saying there was wrongdoing on the part of the counters. I'm saying it's a very difficult and unorganized process with no rhyme or reason to it. And even when there was, allegations of double voting and two different, I presume, counters, they're unidentified in the transcripts, there was confusion. The decision was to move on and say, we'll work it out in the runoff, when I was 2 votes away from winning on the first ballot. So I just wanted to respond to that. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah, okay. I mean, if we're good, I'd like to move on to some of the other questions. We're getting some of the other DNC members backing up. So thank you for your question, Michael, and thank you for everybody's response. Mr. Buckley? Oh, there you go. You're unmuted now. There you go.
Thank you, Ryan. My original question was to, I'm not able to go, I've gone through all of this. I've read through the Constitution of the Alabama Party. So there was 140 credentialed members at this meeting. How many at that moment how many members of the state central committee were at that moment? Because it clearly says in your Constitution that it's at least 210. How much higher was it than 210?
Who do you want to direct that to?
I guess Ben, he's the one answering the questions more.
Yes, and Mr. Buckley, off the top of my head, I do not know that answer, simply because we have caucuses with fairly large bodies. Our youth caucus, obviously our Black caucus. And so I don't know that answer off the top of my head. I do know that number was calculated for purposes of determining a quorum, because our quorum is a percentage of the total, and we certainly can get that figure if that is if that is certainly something the committee requires. We can certainly get that. We have the list there, and certainly could count the members. I personally have not done that before this call.
Well, that's certainly not the answer I was expecting. I'm deeply disappointed in that answer.
Well, I'm sorry, I'd be happy to count that.
But more importantly, I am heartbroken by this situation. 48 years ago, I was elected to my state committee when I was 18 years old. I've spent my life with the state party, my life. I'm the longest serving state party chair in the country. I'm in my 18th year, and 8 of those years, I was president of the State Parties Association. I've been a member of the executive committee of the DNC for 22 years. There are 57 state parties, Ben, 57. And do you know the one party that just keeps on coming back? Alabama. Now, to me, if you knew that we have gone over and over and beyond and beyond and beyond to keep given a second chance, given a second chance, given it for years. One would have thought they would have said, you know what? We should make sure that there's not a single questionable thing going on in this meeting. And instead, there's a laundry list. A laundry list. Democracy is not just for the voters, it should be for our party. And the fact that the registered Democrats in the state of Alabama cannot have faith that this party can run an election breaks my heart. Breaks my heart because I worked with Ms. Worley. I've worked with chair after chair after chair all these years, bringing you money, bringing you support, getting people to send money to visit. And what do we get back? Not an apology, not any sort of contrite, but instead an aggressive arrogance. Listen, it is beyond fathomable. If you thought that vote was correct, that there was not a second vote, that there was not a vote counted. The fact that, boom, it was like, nope, no, there are 2 votes. It is not logical. It's not, nobody in their right mind can look at that and go, yeah, that was a good call. That was a dumb call. And it brings into question all of this. And I tell you, when I say I'm broken, I am, swear to God, I am heartbroken over this. Every Democrat in this country and across the world with Democrats abroad deserves to know that this party is run in a fair and open manner. The fact that you don't even let the people know who are the members of the committee, that you add people at the last minute. Now, that was part of the challenge a couple of years ago that you did that. And what did you do? Do it again. Do it again. Don't have to record the vote. Nope. Don't have to know who the voters are. Nope. Don't know how to contact. Nope. Don't know where the notice. Nope. 57 state parties, folks. Only one. Only one. And it keeps coming back.
No, Mr. Ben, no. We've got other people lined up. So understood. Thank you, Mr. Buckley. Thank you for your comments. I'm going to move on to Mr. Middleton. So Clay.
I'm gonna pick up where Ray left off with this question for Ben. And you talked about, is it perfect? No, but there's ways to improve. I'm just trying to understand, given what this committee agreed to earlier this year of saying, do these things. We want to temporarily seat these folks, do these things, and that still wasn't done. What is the response as it relates to the record of individuals voting in terms of who they were, time frame, even the person that oversaw? Just if you can respond to some of the challenges.
Sure, and I want to, because I want to speak to following the committee's recommendations, and you all wrote them down in the resolution, and we did take them and go point by point in terms of the membership list that was prepared. It was prepared within the time that was required. The notices, which was the next point, were prepared and were made public and vetted with DNC staff before we did it. In terms of ensuring that only, and that was the specific directive, only SDEC, credentialed SDEC members could vote. We had a very rigorous credentialing process, and we stationed folks at the voting area so that you could not get in without your credentials. And I don't believe there's a serious argument that anyone did. There was not, and it's not that we were saying, oh, they didn't ask us to do this, so we're not going to do it. There was not a directive to publish a membership list. Had there been, we absolutely would have done it. Now, it could perhaps, and I'm not arguing the point that perhaps it might be a good idea down the road. We have not ever done that in the past. This was not, and I want to address the last comment, because this was not some effort to rush people in at the last moment. It was not. Our bylaws provide, and in fact require, that before any vote can be taken at a meeting, that vacancies be filled. There was not one side filling these vacancies. And I hate to talk about sides in our party, but there were supporters of various candidates who were filling vacancies. And I want to make that really, really, really clear. And where there were doubts, and we had 3 instances where there were doubts, two instances where folks were elected and then upon a review of their residency were not allowed to be seated because they lived on the wrong side of the line. In a 3rd instance, a vacancy offered to be filled by a supporter of the challengers was filled over the objection of a supporter of the elected parties. So where there were doubts, they were resolved, and I think they were resolved fairly. And this is all in the transcript, and I want to be very clear about this. This was not. I know there were issues in the past with, oh, well, there were folks rushed in at the last minute or something like that. That did not happen here. And we are struggling. I don't know how other parties are set up. I know that we have had issues in Alabama that go very deep. And we struggle with issues on both sides of these disputes. And we come together with the best compromise that we can to be as fair as we can. And we are making very good strides. We are building at the grassroots level. We now have county parties in every state, in every county, which we have not had in a long time. And so I don't want anyone to hear that this is some sort of disregard. It's not. In fact, it was a hard, constant effort to follow the recommendations that we got. Those recommendations did not include making lists public or providing lists to candidates. I will say this, had they included that, and I'm not faulting the committee, we followed the recommendations that we got. We did not get a recommendation to make the list public. We did not do that. But had we gotten that, we absolutely would have followed it because we followed every single one of them. And were we to get that from some other body or this body in the future, we would absolutely follow that. There was a commitment to follow what you asked us to do. And, you know, it is easy. I don't know if it's easy, but I'll say.
I'm sorry to cut you.
No, I got the part. I'll stop. I just think I was not physically there, but given what has been outlined, there's just we've been here before. So I appreciate it, Ben, for answering and responding.
Thank you, Mr. Middleton. Thank you, sir. We're past the time. We're going to go ahead and extend it a little bit and allow Ms. Rollins to ask her question, but this will be the last one. So thank you, everybody. Virgie?
Thank you again for both sides and listening to both sides, and what Clay just said and what the resolution that was given to this state to come into compliance with. And I've been listening, and I just heard from Ben taking everything that we've asked and try to adhere to what we asked in that resolution from the last meeting. And he answered the question I was gonna, was the list asked in that resolution that we get was asked to provide a list to be distributed among the candidates. And I just heard you said that was not in the resolution. It was not asked. And I've said on a lot of these hearings and when state parties and appeals and not to what Ray said, and as far as there have been a lot of state parties who had rules that other members could not go along with. So it sounds like to me that there are a lot of issues in Alabama, but from what I heard tonight, they're trying to make things work. And I am happy about it. I'm happy that there are movements to make improvement. And sounds like this last election was a part of that movement to make things work better. So I thank you, State Party, and I hope that the issues can be worked out, that we won't have to come back to this again.
Thank you, Ms. Rollins. Now, Hilda. You're on mute still. You're on mute.
I'm on. Can you hear me now? Yeah, I'm having some technical issues, so you're going to need to help me out here a bit, Ryan, if I need to call on you, okay? But I want to thank everybody for their thoughtful questions in the discussion. It is very important for us to hear from everyone as much as possible. But at this time, as you know, we're going to consider a resolution to dispose of the pending challenge. So I would ask if there's a member who would like to present a resolution to address the challenge. Do I have a member? Mr. Clay?
Yes, I have.
You want to present the resolution?
I do.
Okay, we need a second. And I believe Ms. Pelosi?
I second Mr. Middleton's resolution.
Thank you. Okay, so why don't we go ahead and resolution's been offered and seconded. Let's take a moment and staff will help us display the proposed resolution on the screen. And the proposed resolution will be discussed for a maximum of 20 minutes with time equally divided between the proponents and opponents of the resolution. And if credentials members wish to be recognized, please raise your hand now via Zoom and state at the beginning of your remarks whether you are a proponent or opponent of the resolution.
Madam Co-Chair, if I may, I'll read Mr. Middleton's resolution for the committee before its deliberation.
Yes.
In the challenge as supplemented and appealed before the Credentials Committee of the Democratic National Committee, filed by Josh Coleman and Caroline Self to the credentialing of Donna Foster, Joe M. Reed, and Charlie Staton, as DNC members from Alabama, the committee resolves as follows. Whereas the Alabama Democratic Party attempted to elect its 2024 to 2028 DNC members in the summer of 2024, whereas in August 2024, the state party certified to the DNC's secretary that the challenge parties had been elected as Alabama's 2024 to 2028 DNC members, whereas the challenge parties filed the instant challenge in September, the challengers filed the instant challenge in September 2024, alleging procedural irregularities in those elections. Whereas the state party recognized the concerns raised by the challengers and therefore determined that after the 2024 Democratic National Convention, its 3 DNC member seats were vacant pursuant to the DNC's Charter, Article 3, Section 3. Whereas the state party attempted to hold another DNC member election at an Alabama State Democratic Executive Committee meeting in October 2024, but the meeting failed to reach quorum. Whereas the state party's bylaws, Article 2, Section 1, provide that in the event of a vacancy in any other executive office, The same shall be temporarily filled by the executive board until the next meeting of the state committee when the unexpired term will be filled. Whereas after the October meeting failed to reach quorum, Chair Randy Kelly called a meeting of the executive board to temporarily fill the vacant DNC member seats. Whereas the state party again certified to the DNC secretary that the challenge parties had been temporarily selected as Alabama's DNC members. Whereas in November 2024, the challenger submitted an addendum to their challenge alleging additional concerns about the October executive board meeting. Whereas in December 2024, the committee's co-chairs, pursuant to their authority under the committee's rules of procedure, sent a letter to the challengers, challenge parties, and the state party establishing a timeline for the committee's consideration of the challenge. Whereas the co-chairs informed the challenge parties that their answer to the challenge would be due on January 10th, 2025. Whereas the letter informed the parties that upon receipt of the challenge party's answer, the challenge would then be deferred to the state party until May 30th, 2025 for its consideration. Whereas, as permitted under Committee Rule 6I, the state party intervened in the challenge on January 7th, 2025 and submitted its own answer, which explained that the state party resorted to the use of the executive board in order to comply with DNC Charter Article 3, Section 3. Whereas the state party also informed the committee in its answer that it intends to hold an open well-noticed and fair election for its 2024 to 2028 DNC members at its next meeting in April 2025. Whereas on January 11th, 2025, the challenge parties submitted their consolidated answer. Whereas on January 17th, 2025, the challengers objected to the temporary seating of the challenge parties as DNC members. Whereas on January 30th, 2025, the committee discussed the parties' filings during an open committee meeting. Whereas the committee resolved that the challenge parties be temporarily seated as DNC members from Alabama for the purposes of the 2025 DNC winter meeting, and the DNC approved that resolution. Whereas the committee also provided recommendations for the state party's April 2025 DNC member elections to ensure fairness and transparency. Whereas the state party held its DNC member elections on April 26, 2025. Whereas the state party reports that Donna Foster won her election for committee woman 73 to 71, Charlie Staton won his election for committee man 97 to 42, and Joe M. Reed won his election for committee person 84 to 59. Whereas the challengers filed an appeal to the April 2025 elections on May 9th, 2025, alleging that 1, over 30 state committee seats were filled at the April meeting prior to the DNC member elections without prior notice of which seats would be filled at the meeting and why. 2, the procedures governing the election were not clear. 3, ineligible individuals were allowed to vote. 4, the election judge appointed to oversee the election disclosed conflicts of interest. And 5, a request for a roll call vote and/or recount in the committee woman election was denied despite the close margin of 73 votes to 71. Whereas the state party responds that 1, the DNC member elections were properly noticed. 2, state party staff and volunteers ran a strict credentialing process. 3, the DNC member elections were conducted under the supervision of an election judge who is a well-respected member of the Montgomery community. 4, 2 of the elections were decided by wide margins. And 5, if there are concerns about the filling of vacancies to the state committee itself is a more appropriate venue to address those concerns. Whereas the committee held a public hearing on August 14th, 2025, at which the challengers, challenge parties, and state party had an opportunity to present evidence and argument to the committee. Now, therefore, based on the record and proceedings before it, which indicate that the outcomes of the elections for DNC committee woman and committee person were likely affected by the procedural irregularities raised by the challengers, including the composition of the electorate and the process for tallying votes, the committee has determined that the elections of Donna Foster as committee woman and Joe M. Reed as committee person were not valid. As such, the committee hereby resolves that the state party must hold new elections under DNC supervision for DNC committee woman and committee person within 90 days of the DNC's approval of this resolution in order for the committee to recognize the validity of its elections for committee woman and committee person and thereby recommend the permanent seating of those members by the DNC. Such elections must include the following features in addition to the features listed in the committee's January 30th, 2025 resolution. A process to identify, investigate, and correct all discrepancies in the SDEC member list, including membership status and eligibility. B, a list of vacancies to be filled by the SDEC must be provided to SDEC members at least 14 days before the meeting at which the vacancies will be filled. C, notice that is designed to inform the SDEC and the public of all the pertinent information concerning the DNC member elections and other aspects of the meeting, including but not limited to the date, time, place, and agenda of the meeting, must be distributed in a manner designed to ensure that notice reaches all interested parties. D, the distribution of an up-to-date list of all eligible voting SDEC members to all DNC member candidates at least 14 days before the DNC member elections. E, the committee woman and committee person elections must be conducted by a roll call vote conducted by paper ballot with each voter's name and signature on the ballot. F, a representative of the challengers and a representative of the DNC must be permitted to observe the ballot tabulation. With regard to the election of Charlie Staton as committee man, the committee has determined that the irregularities raised by the challengers could not have affected the outcome of an election with a 55-vote margin, and therefore recommends that the DNC permanently seat Mr. Staton as committee man from Alabama for the 2024 to 2028 term. The committee further recommends that the DNC temporarily seat Donna Foster and Joanne Reed as members of the DNC for the August 2025 DNC meeting pursuant to Article 2, Section 10B4 of the DNC's bylaws in order to allow Alabama Democrats an opportunity to participate in DNC affairs in the interim. The committee wishes the Alabama Democratic Party success in reflecting the state's great diversity of Democrats, advancing democracy, transparency, and fairness, and winning elections at all levels.
Okay, very good. I believe we'll now turn to those wishing to speak on the resolution, and the time, as I said earlier, is 20 minutes maximum, and it will be equally divided. So, staff, can we go to any hands raised in order?
Chair, I see Ms. Pelosi has her hand raised.
Ms. Pelosi, you recognize.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Middleton, for making this resolution. I'll just be brief. I understand the concerns about a roster, but you have to have a voter file and it has to be available. I would recommend that the Alabama Democrats tell people to come up with a DNC related email if that's how they want to be reached. But you cannot have an election without a roster. No one knows more than me and my family about political violence and threats and things like that. But you got to have voter contact if you're going to have an election. So I would urge my colleagues to make sure that Alabama is represented at this very important meeting in Minnesota, but also that we hold these new elections with a roster and everybody having a fair chance to access it. Thank you.
Next in the queue. Staff,
I see Michael Kapp with his hand raised.
Michael Kapp.
Thank you, Supervisor. I'm strongly against this resolution. We've been here before. Temporarily seated the Alabama Democratic Party again and again and again, and we're still here. These are not and have never been fair, free, or open elections. And I'm against temporarily seating any of these members. If staff can please pull up the resolution that we drafted and approved back in January as a committee. And can you pull it down to the result clauses, please? So I just want to walk through this to show that we've tried. We've tried to give them every opportunity to address these crucial issues, and they have not met that burden. The first three clauses here all deal with proper notice, and no effort was made to inform the public of SDEC vacancies. The DNC's bylaws at Article 2, Section 3A3 require public notice. The burden of proof per the DNC's bylaws at Article 2, Section 11B3 lays squarely with the state party. They have provided no evidence to demonstrate that public notice for SDEC vacancies occurred. Not only that, Mr. Harris earlier today admitted that no one knew what these vacancies were, and they simply relied on quote unquote members' knowledge of these vacancies. So they failed to abide by the first three clauses of this January resolution. Moving forward, this next one ensures that only current SDEC members are able to vote in this election. At least half a dozen people were nominated to represent districts in which they did not reside. Some were actually seated and allowed to vote. Further, there was a use of a rope line that could and was alleged to have been easily avoided by people who were uncredentialed to go to the credentialed area. Second, lanyards were used instead of tamper-proof bracelets, and lanyards can be easily used to be passed to non-credentialed attendees. Third, a standing vote that by its very nature allows people to vote multiple times during a single vote. For instance, potentially for multiple candidates. Fourth, that the state party selected some, but not all SDC members to vacate their seats due to purported attendance reasons, but allowed others who were beyond the 3 allowed absences to keep their seats and not be vacated. 5, a sudden jump of 14 voters in the 2 rounds of committee woman voting, when best democratic practices bar credentialing during voting, yet there was only a single minute in between each round. Again, 14 people were allegedly credentialed in that single minute. Further, the challengers alleged, and the respondents did not contest anywhere, that only 140 people were credentialed. Yet both the committee woman runoff vote and the committee person vote totaled more than 140 votes. All of this casts serious doubt that the only current and validly credentialed SDC members were allowed to vote in these elections. So I don't believe they met this clause either. This next clause, it demands that the ADP amend their state party bylaws to elect DNC members during the year of the National Convention to fall in line with DNC rules. They failed to do so. And they said they just ran out of time, so they'll do it at the next meeting. Well, we've heard that before. And finally, this last clause that my colleague Christine fought very strongly for at the last meeting, to appoint an impartial election judge at the time of notice. First, they did not appoint an election judge at the time of notice, but it was announced just moments before the first election took place. Second, the election judge had lots of personal connections to the eventual winning slate of candidates. That's not impartiality. And third, and most damning for me, is that the election judge unconscionably and without any reasoning denied a roll call vote for a standing vote where the difference between the candidates was only 2 votes. From that failure to deny a roll call vote, combined with the lack of any proffered reasoning for that decision, I believe that this committee can only infer from that action that the election judge was biased and therefore this entire election was tainted. So I really respect and appreciate Mr. Middleton offering up this resolution, but because of all of those reasons and the fact that we've been here for over 8 years with this state party and we're still here, I urge my colleagues to vote no on this resolution. Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're on mute, Ellen. Sorry.
Sorry. Can you hear me now? So we have 4 minutes left for opponents, I believe, and why don't we recognize who else is in the queue there?
Chair Buckley from New Hampshire.
Mr. Buckley.
Madam Co-Chair, is it appropriate to offer an amendment to Clay's motion?
I believe that's appropriate.
Clay, first, thank you for addressing many of this, though I have no faith that they're not going to find, this is like whack-a-mole, you know, what we could think we've thought of everything and then boom, they come up with something else. But anyways, let's move on. Under F, you, in your resolution, it says observe that the DNC should have, it says representatives of the challengers, no. Thought it was, is that ours?
No, that I think, yeah, that's the.
Okay, there it is. Yes, the representative of the challengers and the representative of the DNC must be permitted to observe the ballot tabulations. I move that we say a representative of the challengers must be permitted to observe the tabulation, but a representative of the DNC must be permitted to conduct the tabulation. I have no faith that they can actually do an election in a fair manner. I trust that whoever we send down there would at least ensure that the votes are being counted correctly. That's my amendment.
We need a second to that amendment. Who's recognized to second it? Can you speak? Because I can't see everybody on my screen. I'm sorry. Who's that?
I'll second.
Who's that, please? Okay, there you go, Clay. Thank you.
Right,
Okay,
yes.
that's a second on that. Okay, do we have any further debate on the resolution before we vote on this amendment? Do we need to vote on the amendment right now? Ryan, help me out here. Where are we?
That's going to fall to Helen.
Helen?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. If there is no debate on this proposed amendment, you can ask whether there is any objection to adopting it. Otherwise, it has to be voted on.
Is it, well, let's ask that. Is there any objection to adoption of this amendment that's been presented? It's before you, members. Anyone? No one?
So then it's adopted without objection.
Okay. If there's no objection, then this amendment is adopted. Thank you. Okay. Any further discussion on the resolution itself?
Chair, I see Wendy Davis's hand.
Ms. Davis?
Thank y'all. I have a concern if I'm reading this properly, and I apologize. I'm on my phone, so it's a little bit hard to see. This resolution is suggesting that the DNC be actively involved in just an election for the DNC members. And my concern extends beyond that election. I'm concerned because we've had DNC people observing one election, and then the subsequent meeting, a lot of that work was undone. And I would like to add into this resolution, I would defer to staff or one of y'all who's more resolution-y than I am to potentially add an amendment for continued observation.
Okay. Staff, can we?
If I may, the Credentials Committee has the authority to determine the seating and credentialing of DNC members. So that is the issue before the committee today. And so that is all that this resolution can pertain to.
Ms. Davis?
Thank you. Thank you.
Anybody else in the queue there? Because I can't see all the hands up. I'm sorry.
Co-Chair Solis, I see Javier Valdez.
Javier, you recognize Mr. Valdez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to be voting no on the resolution, but not, I mean, my reasons are similar to Mr. Capps, as well as other folks who have spoken. I mean, this is my third year on this committee. Alabama still here. I've said comments in previous meetings before about, you know, why are they keep coming back? But obviously there's a long tenured history of that. If this resolution was strictly about Mr. Statton being able to be seated and credentialed for the meeting, I would be comfortable with that because the margin was so large. But I'm just simply cannot vote for this based on giving the two others, even though it's temporary, they're still going to be seated for a meeting in which, in my opinion, they should not be seated. And I just can't vote for this because of that one that clause in there that they would be temporarily seated. I will also say that I was really disappointed, and I felt this committee was disrespected in the way we heard from the Alabama State Party chair at this meeting today, and dismissive and confrontational and simply refusing to acknowledge that anything is wrong. And I would sincerely hope that I don't know the individual, I don't know the chair, but I would sincerely hope that the folks who elected the chair of Alabama may want to look elsewhere. Those are my comments.
Thank you.
Chair, I see Claire Lucas with her hand raised.
Ms. Lucas?
Hi, thank you. I am actually going to support this resolution today. I think that I've been on the Credentials Committee as well for 8 years. I actually did resonate a lot with many of the things that Ray said, and also I appreciate his friendly amendment. I also see that Alabama has made some progress. I absolutely feel that Mr. Staton should be seated, and I like the conditions that this resolution actually discusses in terms of temporarily seating the other two members and then redoing the election after the August meeting. So in that sense, I'm supporting the resolution. Thank you.
I believe we have 1 minute left. Do we want to hear from the opponents?
Chair, I see Clay Middleton's hand raised. There are 9 minutes remaining for discussion for proponents of the amendment and 1 minute remaining for opponents of the amendment of the resolution.
All right, let's go ahead. Clay?
Yeah, I want to echo what Claire said. Some progress has been made that we can actually see, and I think the amendment from Ray really speaks to the involvement of the DNC, and I think Wendy, to what you mentioned earlier, when that time comes for their next big election, that we can't intervene on a front end to physically be there, to do the tabulation, to do all the things, not to insult the state of Alabama, but to truly hold their hand and walk step by step. So I think that addresses some of the concerns. And again, from this, we can truly move forward given the election, not the election, excuse me, given our next meeting in August this month. But at least having these 3 members make Alabama whole for the business before the DNC. But thank you.
Thank you, Clay. Do we have any further discussion on the item? We still have some time there.
Chair, I'm not seeing any hands raised.
Okay. Okay.
Chair, I see Ms. Virgie Rollins has her hand raised.
Okay, Ms. Rollins.
Well, I'm in agreement. I support everything Clay said, and even with the added to what Ray added to it. And I'm just looking forward to it because I see the progress that they're making in trying to make things better. So I'll be voting yes too.
Any further discussion? Anyone else in the queue there that I'm not seeing?
Seeing none, Chair.
Okay, then as chair, we'll now call for a vote on the resolution as amended to dispose of the pending challenge. And I'll ask Helen to call the roll, and members will be muted when your name is called. If you would like to vote in favor of the resolution, please say aye. If you oppose the resolution, say no. And if you're holding a proxy when that person is called, please respond to cast their vote. So let's proceed. Helen?
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Buckley?
I pass.
Okay. Ms. Davis?
Oh, no, I vote no.
Okay. Mr. Degnan?
Aye.
Mr. Degnan votes for. Ms. Hernandez-Matz is absent. Jay Jacobs gave his proxy.
Aye.
Jacobs votes for. Mr. Cap?
No.
Mr. Cap votes no. Mr. Lee?
I pass.
Mr. Lee passes. Ms. Leong Hong?
Wait a minute. Pass.
Ms. Leong Hong passes. Ms. Lucas?
Aye.
I'm sorry, Ms. Lucas.
Aye.
That's Lucas votes for. Mr. Mallory?
Yes.
Mr. Mallory votes for. Ms. Maxwell, Ms. Fleming?
Aye.
Maxwell votes for. Ms. McBride gave her proxy to Ms. Lucas.
Aye.
Ms. McBride is counted for. Mr. Middleton?
Aye.
Mr. Middleton counted 4. Mr. Newman's proxy is with Ms. Rollins.
Aye.
Mr. Newman votes aye. Ms. Pelosi?
Aye.
Pelosi votes aye. Ms. Penske?
No.
Ms. Penske votes no. Ms. Pringle is absent. Ms. Rollins?
Aye.
Rollins votes 4. Ms. Ruiz?
No.
Ms. Reese votes no. Mr. Valdez?
No.
Mr. Valdez votes no. Mr. Walters' proxy is with Mr. Mallory.
Yes.
Mr. Walters votes 4. I'm going to go back to the 3 members who passed before taking the chair's votes. Mr. Buckley, do you wish to vote? Mr. Buckley, do you wish to vote now?
Yes, if I open up, I voted no.
You vote, Mr. Buckley votes no. Mr. Lee passed. Do you wish to vote now?
I vote aye. Thank you.
Mr. Lee votes 4. Ms. Leong Hong, do you wish to vote now?
I'm thinking. I'll vote yes.
Ms. Leong Hong votes 4. Chair Ramirez
Aye.
votes 4. Chair Solis
Yes. Oops. Yes.
votes 4.
Ellen?
I have 15 for,
Mm-hmm. 6.
and 6 no.
Okay.
So with the vote of, what did you say, 15 voting in favor of the motion and 6 voting
No.
against the motion is approved.
The motion is approved. And I'll turn it back to you.
Oh, sorry.
Oh.
Sorry. Oh, sorry.
Don't worry about it. My computer went down. We're having bad AT&T connections here, so I apologize for not being able to call on people that had their hands up. But we're back here. So Ryan, it's yours.
Thank you to all of the Credential Committee members for your thoughtful attention and consideration of this matter. I appreciate your commitment to this committee and to our party. This, committee often is not the funnest at times, and we are stuck dealing with very, very difficult, challenging situations for our party. And I appreciate and thank you all for your time, energy, and commitment to all of this. This is going to be the last Credentials Committee for this group of folks. And I want to say for anybody that's not on the committee next year, thank you, thank you, thank you. And for those that are staying on and continue on, thank you, thank you, thank you. And to my co-chair who is moving on to the executive committee, thank you, thank you, thank you. It's a tremendous honor to have the privilege and opportunity to spend time with you and get to know you. Hilda, you are an incredible role model for all of us, and in terms of the Latino community as well as broader in terms of our country as a whole. So again, thank you, thank you, thank you. And as a point of privilege, we all spend a lot of time here in terms of away from our families and everything doing this. I personally am missing my son's 32nd birthday dinner, and in that regard, and I'm running to hopefully make it back to go to the movies with them. So thank you, and just remember that we all are committed to making our country better and making our party better. And thank you for the work that we're doing together. The recommendations of the Credentials Committee on how this challenge should be resolved will be submitted to the full DNC as a part of the report of this committee. Thank you again to the staff, our parliamentarian, our council, and our technical support team. And thank you to all of you for your service on the committee. The bylaws provided for members of this committee to serve until the first DNC meeting following the election of the new DNC chair. That meeting will be held on August 25th in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Today's meeting was held